It was 12:03 a.m. when Amir's eyes suddenly shot open. The night was too quiet. Even the crickets outside seemed to hold their breath. His throat felt dry, his chest heavy, as if something had dragged him out of sleep on purpose. He reached for his wife beside him, but the cot was empty, the blanket cold. A chill ran down his spine. Where could she have gone at this hour? He pushed himself up and sat in the darkness, straining to hear any sound. Somewhere beyond the courtyard, faint whispers floated on the night air, low, hurried, secretive. And then he saw it. Through the half-open door, in the silvery moonlight, his wife was on the neighbor's bed, sitting too close, way too close, to the man next door. Her shoulders trembled as she laughed at something he said. For a moment, Amir couldn't breathe. His heart thudded so loud it drowned the sound of their voices. He gripped the edge of the cot so hard his knuckles turned white. But as he watched, something else struck him. The way she looked at that man, there was fear in her eyes, not love. And the man, he wasn't just sitting, he was holding her wrist too tight. Something was wrong. Amir felt a dark, boiling rage build inside him, but at the same time, an icy dread spread through his chest. He wanted to storm outside and shout, but a voice in his head whispered, "Wait, watch, find out what's really happening." And so he stayed frozen, every nerve screaming, staring into the moonlit courtyard, until what he saw next made his blood run cold. Amir sat there frozen, his body refusing to move, his mind spinning with questions. This wasn't just some stranger. This was Aslam, the neighbor who had always been polite during the day, the man who used to borrow tools, share chai on lazy afternoons, talk about weather and crops. But this was not neighborly. Amir's wife Zoya was young, much younger than him. She had been married to him for barely 3 years. Their marriage had been quiet, respectful, but not exactly full of passion. He had been working long hours at the factory to save up for a better house. He wanted to give her everything. But now, staring at her sitting there in the moonlight with another man, all his sacrifices suddenly felt meaningless. Except the way she sat, the way she pulled back slightly, the way her hands tried to pry his grip loose. This wasn't two lovers meeting in secret. This was something darker. Amir's mind went to the rumors he had heard around the neighborhood. Aslam had a temper. People whispered that he didn't like Zoya's family because they came from a different background. The caste system was still alive in this village, no matter how much people pretended otherwise. And Amir remembered, just last month, someone had carved something hateful into their wooden gate. Go back to your own people. Was this about revenge? Was this about humiliation? Amir's stomach turned. He tried to calm himself, to think clearly. If he charged outside now, shouting, he would wake the whole neighborhood. And if this was what he feared, if Aslam was forcing himself on her, then shouting might make things worse for Zoya. He slid off the cot silently, barefoot, his heart hammering. The ground felt cold under his feet as he crept to the courtyard door, his eyes never leaving the two figures in the moonlight. He stayed low, hidden by the shadows, moving slow, step by step. Every sound felt too loud, the creak of the wood, the rustle of the leaves. When he finally got close enough to hear their words, what he heard nearly broke him. Zoya's voice was barely a whisper, choked with tears. "Aslam, please, leave me alone. If Amir sees us, he'll think..." Aslam's voice was low, dangerous. "He'll think exactly what I want him to think. That you came here willingly, that you betrayed him." Amir's blood ran cold. He pressed himself against the wall, holding his breath, listening. "You people think you can just move here. Live among us as if you belong," Aslam hissed. "But you don't. You never will. Your kind will always be lower than us." Zoya tried to pull her hand free. "You can't keep doing this." Aslam slapped her so hard she almost fell off the cot. Amir's heart nearly exploded. He wanted to leap forward to kill the man with his bare hands. But then he heard Aslam's next words, and they stopped him cold. "If you scream, if you tell anyone, I'll tell Amir I caught you sneaking here every night. Who do you think he'll believe? Me, his neighbor since childhood, or you, the outsider's daughter?" Amir felt something inside him shatter. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a setup, a trap. He saw Zoya's tears glisten in the moonlight as she whispered, "Why are you doing this to us? We never harmed you." Aslam's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Because people like you don't deserve to live here. You think just because you work hard and pay rent, you can share the same water, the same air? No, I will drive you out, tonight." Amir's hands trembled as he looked around for something, anything he could use. A stick, a rock, anything to defend his wife. But just as he moved, his foot hit a loose stone. It clattered loudly. Both heads snapped toward the sound. "Aslam!" Amir roared, leaping from the shadows. In an instant, the quiet night turned into chaos. Aslam jumped up, startled, but instead of backing away, he smiled, a cold, venomous smile, and shouted so loudly the whole neighborhood could hear. "Neighbors, come see what this man's wife is doing at midnight." Within minutes, lights flicked on in nearby houses. Doors opened. People started gathering. Zoya tried to speak, but Aslam twisted the story so fast it was like watching a snake strike. "She has been meeting me secretly for weeks," he shouted. "And tonight her husband caught us." "Ask him." He saw with his own eyes. The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Faces turned toward Amir. And in that moment, Amir realized the truth. If he told them what he had seen and heard, no one would believe him. Not in this village. Not when they already thought less of Zoya's family. He stood there shaking, fists clenched as whispers turned to accusations, as neighbors pointed at his wife, as someone spat on the ground in disgust. Zoya sobbed silently, pleading with her eyes for him to speak. But before Amir could open his mouth, Aslam struck again. "This is why such people should not be allowed to live among us," he said, his voice loud and righteous. "They bring shame. They bring dishonor." Amir could feel the tide turning against them. The neighbors began demanding that Amir throw her out, send her back to her parents' house, cleanse the shame from his name. And as Amir stood there, heartbroken, helpless, he realized something chilling. This was never about Zoya. This was about hate, about power, about teaching him a lesson for daring to live here. The shouting grew louder. Someone grabbed Zoya's arm and tried to pull her away. Amir finally snapped. "Enough!" he roared, shoving the man aside. Silence fell for a moment. All eyes turned to him. He stepped in front of Zoya, shielding her with his body. "No one touches her." Aslam smirked. "Then you accept her shame? You choose her over your honor?" Amir's jaw clenched. He looked around at the faces of people he had grown up with, shared meals with, worked alongside. And all he saw now was judgment. "Honor!" Amir spat. "What honor is there in letting a liar destroy an innocent woman? What honor is there in believing the worst just because it's easy?" But his words only angered them more. "Throw them out!" someone shouted. "They don't belong here!" Amir realized then that no matter what he said, the verdict had already been passed. That night, under the cold gaze of the moon, Amir packed a small bag. Zoya stood beside him, her face pale, her body shaking. As they walked out of the village, no one stopped them. No one spoke. Only Aslam watched, smiling in victory. And Amir knew this wasn't just the loss of a home. This was the death of everything he had built. Weeks passed. Amir and Zoya moved to another town, far away from the whispers, the stairs. But the nights never felt safe again. Sometimes Amir would wake up at 12:03 a.m., heart pounding as if hearing that faint whisper all over again. He never told anyone the full story. He never went back to confront Aslam, because deep down, he knew this wasn't just one man's cruelty, it was a system, a poison that lived in many hearts. He had learned a painful truth. Hate doesn't always wear a mask of violence. Sometimes it smiles at you in daylight and destroys you at night. And the question that haunted him most was not, why did this happen? It was, how many others have been driven out, silenced, broken, while the world believed the lies? The story ends not with justice, but with a question that forces anyone listening to confront their own conscience. If you were there that night, would you have believed Zoya or Aslam?